Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today I'm here with my cousin, Robert Crume, and he is also my vice president of operations. So we've got a lot of history. Obviously, grew up together, been through a whole lot together, and now we get to work together. So pretty awesome, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So we've been talking. The theme of a lot of this is the relationships, right? So you and I have a blood relationship, and we've got a work relationship. So obviously we knew each other as kids. I was younger than you, and I was the wild one that wanted to hang out, but we always had that age difference, right? Until I got into my 20s, I would say, where it finally kind of catches up at like a maturity level, to where we could actually hang out. Prior to that, I was just like the young little, wild kid, and you were already, let's say, how much older are you than me?
I think I'm 6 years.
I'm 38.
You're 86, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was 80, so 6
Yep.
years.
So 6 years difference. So, teenage years all the way through that, like it was just a difference between the two of us, right? But then in our 20s, we started kind of hanging out. But even in my teens, you worked with the company when Dad owned it and ran everything. And we rode together, and you trained me on a lot of the stuff that I installed. So let's kind of dive in, I guess, to the early days of what was you doing prior to working with Dad, and then kind of run through how that progressed and where you went from there.
Yeah. So I was I was actually working two jobs. That's when I was going through college, working at TPC first shift, and I was working UPS third shift. But once I kind of got out of college and then was done with UPS, I was working I think TPC, which was Thomas Products, was a printing company, doing that. And it was just right before I was getting married with Holly, actually. Me and Holly got married in September of 2001, and your dad had came to me about a month prior to that, kind of vet me a little bit, trying to see if I would even be interested in doing it. One of the concerns, especially during that time, and especially with the dynamic of our family, me being so young, having me work for your dad versus not working for my own dad, who actually owned his own plumbing company. So those are some pretty hard conversations I have to say, hey, Dad, by the way, I know that you've raised me in my entire life around plumbing under your regime, but I'm gonna go work with my uncle instead, and not anymore about you. But so we had to kind of work through those conversations to make sure that we were good with that. But no, so making the transition, your dad was like I said, vetting me, trying to get me to come with him. He needed an extra person. They had just enough work for him and Wayne, but just a little bit more than they can handle. And I think he was talking about bringing on. Lowe's wasn't coming at that time. It was just strictly Sears when we were doing that one. So it was just Sears doing
Circuit City, maybe.
No,
Was you around for that?
No, it was just. I think we took on more categories. I think what it was because we were doing more plumbing instead of appliances, because we were doing more disposals and that kind of thing. So, so when he came to me about doing it, I was a little worried from the perspective of, coming from a W-2 to a 1099. Being I was 20 years old when all that was coming about. So, not understanding how that worked, a little fearful of that. But he, made me feel pretty comfortable about it. And then after I got married, I came back from my honeymoon, and then put my 2 weeks in at my old job, and then decided to make the plunge and work for him. So it was all happening all about the same time of getting married, and then
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Yeah. Hey, wife, we're getting married, and by the way, I'm going to go in a completely different direction of all the things that I'm comfortable with to try something new.
So I talked in the podcast previously about like our grandparents and our, my dad, and your dad fits this mold as well. As far as we were raised around like not your W-2 9-to-5 family. Mm-hmm. So it does come more natural, I think, to us to be able to be like, oh, well, we're going to work and subcontracting or whatever that looks like. And it not being as fearful as a lot of the men and women that we've got today working with us, that they they are taking that leap, based off of a family that was raised like a regular W-2 or like a career, a normal career, if you will.
Yep.
And so for us, I think it was scary, but it was not abnormal. So it's cool that like your dad played into that, right? He had a plumbing company. He had, I remember him having, porta potties and
He had 2 pump trucks.
Yeah, all the stuff.
We had the Showcase Cinemas account. We had the KFCs. I guess what wasn't considered Yum back then, but whatever that was considered back then. He had the Long John Silver's, KFC, Burger King, Hardee's. So he was basically their main plumber for anything that would break down, as far as in the bathroom and stuff like that. But mainly, pumping out the grease traps, pumping out the the septic tanks and stuff.
I used to go with
mainly the grease traps was more the thing we were doing.
So I would go with my dad when he was doing that with your dad or for your dad. I used to freaking love it because they'd give me like all the Happy Meal toys.
Oh, yeah.
While Dad was doing the work, I'd get like the Happy Meal. I was probably 7, 8. Cool. So at that point, you came on board with Dad. Started doing installs. Obviously, we grew up around plumbing. We had all of this stuff down, but never really like the appliance realm per se.
Yep.
So you got in there.
So that was September of 2001 is when I started with them.
And we're very similar in the way that we work as far as install, well, even work just in general. It was like, go out, let's do the job, let's get the job done, and let's get home, right? Like we make more money per hour if we do the job right and do it fast. Mm-hmm. So I had been with Dad, for years, going with him on, summer breaks and just anytime school was out. And he was more of the relationship person, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm this mold of different things where he would go do like 4 or 5 jobs. If he didn't have to go out and do 10 that day, he'd do 5, but still spend a ton of time out, talking and mingling and building relationships and connections, which is 100% warranted.
Oh yeah.
And then I go with you, and it's just like, hey, let's do 10 jobs today. I'm like, 10 jobs? Like, we're never going to, if you're taking smoke breaks and talking to these people, like, we're never going to get this day over with. But we'd be able to go out and, like, knock them out, right? So a lot of the training and the, I would say like, hey, how do you do this as good but quicker, right? Maybe being able to talk to the customer while you're installing instead of just stopping everything. And giving them your undivided attention, right? At the end of the day, the customer wants that connection with you. They want that relationship with you, but they also paid you to come in their house to do a job,
That's right.
not to hang out in their kitchen. So I picked a lot of that up from you as far as efficiency, right? Like be efficient at what you're doing.
It's a cadence. It's a start to finish cadence of what it should look like when you walk in. And I tell installers this all the time. You get 30 seconds to tell the customer, show the customer that, hey, I'm coming to your home. You have no idea who I am, and to have them comfortable enough having somebody in your in their home. You got 30 seconds to kind of show, to kind of put on that character, that mask of, this is who I am, but this is also making you feel comfortable with me being in there, so that way I can do your install. And if I do happen to do it in 15, 20 minutes, well, the 30 seconds or the minute that I took to develop that relationship, makes them feel more comfortable in your home as well. So.
Yeah, so I like to say the first 10 seconds and the last 10 seconds. I learned that from riding with you, Kenny, who we'll talk more about, and he'll be on here for sure. That's the most important. Like that first 10 seconds, like when they open that door, and that's really in life. Like that first impact, that first input that someone's able to give on you is crucial. So like, can you make them like you, trust you, and be okay with you being in their home in like 10 seconds? 10 minutes. If you do it in 10 seconds, call me. But like the first 10 minutes, last 10 minutes. And that for me became like the turning point, right? Because I could go in, I could talk to them. I could understand who they are. I could build that relationship when I walk through the door. And then that instills trust as well, right? Like they understand that like, hey, they did hire me to come in and do this job, but also I'm in their house, right? I'm in the most intimate space of their life.
That's right.
I better acknowledge that. So, seeing you do that, got really good at that. Dad did that really, really, really well. But how do I do what he was doing and be able to do the job efficiently and get to the next job, right? Because like I've got to get these jobs done so that I can make money and get home to see, my family. So it was a mixture of the two. So I feel like I've got a really good whirlwind today of relationships. I'm really good at relationships. I know undoubtedly, and I can get stuff done.
Yep.
So that stemmed a lot from our training. We had a lot of fun when we were out riding together.
I don't know if we're allowed to say some of the stuff we did, but yeah.
There was a whole lot of I bet you won't, and I will tell you one thing: this man will. He's not going to lose $20.
That was old school Crume.
That was old school Crume. We don't do that no more.
We do not encourage that today, for sure.
But nothing terrible. It was just fun.
Yeah.
We had fun when we were out, when we were riding together. We bonded. We got to learn who each other was for like the first time, really. I was old enough to be able to carry on conversations at the same level that you were interested in that moment. So I feel like that was probably our first real connection as cousins.
Well, I think too. I mean, we have the same, like you mentioned earlier, the same work ethic, right? Yeah. So, I'm attracted more to people that have the same style as me, especially when it comes to work ethic and doing things right and doing things right the first time. So, I think our bond became stronger because I didn't have to feel like I was constantly coming behind you or constantly having to re-encourage you to do certain things or have, I'm all about cadences, right? So, once I kind of established a cadence, like you kind of fell into that cadence with me and it made it a lot easier. So I didn't really have to say anything. It was just, hey, here's a template of what this needs to look like, at least how I like to do it. And you did a really good job of coming behind me and supporting that. And, you kind of knew what I needed and I knew what you needed to kind of get the job done. And, I think it made our relationship stronger because, once again, I didn't feel like I had to babysit. It was just, hey, you're just like me. I show you to you one time, you've got it. And not only are you going to take it, you're going to take it and make it better.
Right.
And I think because we both had that same similar personality, I think we clicked and we worked. And it was probably the most fun that I had, especially with our time together, because it was, we did have a 6-year age gap difference. Yep. And, if I'm 16 and you're 10, that's a
different.
That's a pretty big difference in, personalities and stuff like that. So, our time together, especially in the vans, was probably one of my most enjoyable times with you because it was, even though we were working, it was more about us being together than it was working.
Yeah. And we were really good at it. We did a ton of jobs, like 10 or more a day, 5 days a week.
I would put us up against anybody else as far as the amount of jobs that we did, the quality at which we did it in, and we never had callbacks.
And the impact to the customer. Like they loved us. We could do a microwave in 10 minutes. And
we could banter back and forth. We could banter to the customer. I mean, that's where your personality comes in more than mine. I'm more of a, hey, I want to get in. I'm obviously establish a relationship. I'm good at the first part of establishing a relationship with the customer, but I'm more of a, hey, I want to get it in. I want to get it done. I want to get it done right. And then obviously have the conversation with the customer get out where you kind of filled in the gaps. And you actually made me better in that situation because, as I felt like I was really good at doing the installs and I would put me up against anybody, you kind of taught me the personality part of it to be able to say, hey, there is a different perspective I can do this in, and having a different way to communicate with the customer in a way that was a little more free, where I was a little more structured. I'm a very structured person where you're kind of a little bit more out of the box than I am.
That's that ADD kicking in.
Yeah. So, it was a good blend, a good balance between our two personalities for sure.
Yeah. So you worked, obviously under Dad. He ran the company, owned the company. It was you, him, Wayne for the most part.
It was us three at first for at least 3 years
Yeah.
before we brought
We had a couple more people come in. Some stayed, some didn't. And there was a tipping point, right, to where in that moment it wasn't for you anymore. So in 2006, you actually left and went back to
I actually went to work with Dad.
Oh, yep.
I did water heaters about a year and a half, 2 years with him. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed putting in water heaters more than I did anything else. It was an art and a craft to it more
100%.
than anything else, and I just enjoyed it.
Yep.
And working with our fathers is not necessarily the easiest thing to do in this world.
We'll
So
always be their sons.
always be their sons. A little harder working for my dad than it was yours, just from the personality of my dad. But yeah, I had about a year and a half in, and I was like, yeah, it's time to move on. So then I ended up going back to Thomas Products, which is where I was at, or TBC before I came with your dad the first time. So
Right.
got to rekindle that relationship and get back. So.
Yeah. So you built that up to being the plant manager, right?
I was actually the general manager when I left. So when I first went back, it was more of I just had to get away from my dad to kind of separate. I wanted that relationship with my dad to be father son, not necessarily work, just because of the personality aspect of it. That's another day, another different podcast. But yeah, when I went back to Thomas Products, started off entry level working laser printers. So Thomas Products, kind of a little backstory there, is a printing company that actually prints labels and barcodes and stuff for General Electric. And TBC is one of the first companies to actually kind of develop the barcoding system for each appliance that kind of goes down the line to have a serial number all in one form, where a lot of the companies would have a barcode in one box, energy guide in another box. It was all kind of separated out into different boxes. And we were able to develop one particular sheet that had all of that on one sheet, so that when it goes down the assembly line, it was easier for the worker to be able to, put the label on, this appliance or this rating plate, and then have the barcode go around the box. So they came pretty innovative when it came to that. So because of those forms that we created, we ended up being their number one supplier for all their labels. So Thomas Products pretty much supplied all the labels for General Electric and all the barcoding. So then starting from there. Entry level, actually it was on the burster. So burster is, as it goes through the laser printer, this machine called the burster actually takes all the forms that are all in one consecutive sheet and actually breaks them. There's a perf that separates each form, and the burster would trim off the pin feed holes on the side and then actually separate the sheets into individual sheets, and then we would box it up based upon a serial number range, and then ship it over to GE. So started from entry level. Obviously, with our personalities, I'm not going to learn just one thing.
Right.
So kind of fast forward, there was about 7 different machines in the shop. I got to a point to where I knew how to run every single machine. Ended up being able to be the maintenance guy to fix every machine. So instead of hiring outside help or outside companies, it was all internal. I was the guy that did all the troubleshooting, did all the maintenance, all the fixing. And just kept, rising the ranks and promoting myself, or not promoting myself, but getting promoted to plant manager at one point, and then end up being the number 2 there to be at the general manager to kind of run the entire facility. So,
And that was a spread of 13 years?
over 13 years. Yeah.
13 years. So going through, you worked there, rose through the ranks, became the general manager. And then while you're doing that, I'm still working with Dad, and it kind of escalated through the relationships that I built with Lowe's, and doing God knows what.
Well, I think before I left your dad, though, was when that's when I trained you, and then I believe after I got you trained, I believe.
Yes, so I was on my own. Yes, so you left. Well, it was right. I was in high school co-oping, so
Correct.
when I co-oped, I couldn't be on my own all the time. I wasn't old enough yet, so I rode with you, and then we did 2 jobs at once. But yeah, so I rode with you, and then right after you left, I was actually able to. It actually worked out where when you left, I kind of took over, except I didn't get the nice van you had. So while you're at Thomas, I'm installing for years and years, and then go through and try out the college route, and I start kind of working internally with the company, figuring out like what's next, right? So similar to the way you're at Thomas, figuring out all of the different systems and different machines, and I'm at Crume figuring out all the different categories and people and TV sheds, whatever, all the stuff that I can get into to learn and be the best at what I can get my hands on. So all of that kind of stemmed up to the point where the company starts growing pretty rapidly. And then me and you are obviously, I used to swing by Thomas all the time and hang out with you and mess with Cecil, and we had a lot of fun there. And And, we would talk and you'd be like, man, what is this? What's going on here? What's going on there? So you were in tune with what was going on with the company. And then obviously me and you sit down, we have a conversation, and that's when we decide like, hey, come on board, man. We are like exploding in growth. Like, the history of this, the background of this, the installs. Plus we're so similar in mindset. Like it's going to be an easy it's the roles reversed, where it was an easy transition of like, we think the same. I know that I can talk to you and we have an understanding of what I need. So, talk through as far as, leaving Thomas and then the worries of coming on board, back here. Cause you were obviously dad owned the company. Then by the time you came back, I owned the company fully. And we were 100 miles an hour, and scattered all over the place at that point.
So, if you remember, we actually had a couple of conversations about me coming on with you. I will say that the confidence that I had to make the change at first, it wasn't the confidence. It wasn't that I didn't have any confidence in you. It was just the confidence in that you were just starting to kind of explode, and leaving a job that I was comfortable in, leaving a job that I had a lot of stature in. You just don't leave that behind, right? Like, there has to be a pretty good reason for you to make that kind of a jump. But in saying that, like, watching you, once I left and you were you're on your own, and just watching you grow up in the environment of working on your dad, but constantly being driven to do more, constantly being driven to, how can I make something out of nothing? How can I make just anything work? Even conversations where you came to me a couple of times about, my ICT degree, and you wanted to go into some kind of networking or whatever else, right? So, it was kind of planting the seeds then, where I knew you had the drive to do it. It was just the means and the opportunity for you to be able to grab onto, to be able to really make it explode. So, watching you develop over those years, and having all those opportunities that you were working and trying to make work, and then they failed, right? You had a lot of failures before you had your success.
Yeah.
And, I got to watch that from behind the scenes. And, we've never really had those conversations before, but, I was proud and excited of your drive. Like, I wish I had that. Like, I feel like I could be, if the opportunity is there, obviously I think I would take it, but you're really good at, if the opportunity is not there, creating the opportunity, and then not really exploiting it in a bad way, but exploiting it in a way that, at least throwing stuff at the wall to try to make it work and try to make it stick. And if it doesn't stick, how can we pivot and go a different direction, right? So, watching you kind of do that through all the years of, when your dad had the appliance depot place, and you're out front in a rabbit costume or any kind of a costume, like anything that you can do to drive success on the things that you were doing, to the doing treadmills. I did a pull table before you. I was still working at Thomas Products, and like, hey man, I need you to help me with this pool table. I'm like, I've never done a pool table in my life. And like, neither have I, but we're taking on pool tables now. Any chance you can help me out? I'm like, ain't no problem. So I grab one of my buddies, and we, first time in my life I ever installed a pool table, but that's kind of who we are, right? Like, this is why we are who we are today, is we're not scared of the opportunity. It's just that the opportunity is there. So I say all that to say that, when I made the decision to leave my comfort zone to try something new, I still had the confidence knowing that I'm going to be working for a gentleman that is putting in the work, and all the hard work that he put in over the years is now finally starting to show.
Yep.
Right? And all those failed opportunities that you had before, you finally had a chance to really grab onto something and explode. And it was exciting to say, man, I want to be a part of that, right? I want to be a part of being aligned with somebody who has the same values as me, being aligned with somebody that, if I'm going to work hard, he's going to work twice as hard, and kind of go back and forth there. So, so it made it a little easier to know that, I'm in good hands, because I'm going to be working with somebody that we align with, and then I'm excited to help build what you're trying to do. And, just taking that and run with it. So
perfect. Yeah. So you came on board. I was still using, I think, Gmail at the time, and you were like, hey, we need to get Outlook. I still hate you for that. But like, so walking into it, right? It wasn't structured. I was still trying to figure out what structure meant. It was more like so much stuff was falling into my lap at that point that, hey, we just had to seize the opportunity that was in front of us, and then we'll figure out everything else on the back end. And even today, we're figuring out things on the back end that companies our size usually are able to figure out, as they scale. For us, being in the industry of service work, service needs to be done immediately. Like there's no time to plan or, get with the zoning or let's get the drawings. It's like, hey, I need this done today, like right now. Yep. So if you're going to take this, I need it right now. And it's like, I can get it done, but I need to be able to also implement metrics and different things that let us measure and monitor the business. So we've gotten much, much better at that in the last few years. But you coming on board, you came from a business that did have that. Mm-hmm. And you were like, hey, we got to do this and we got to do this. And I'm like, we don't have time for any of that. Like, you know what I need you to do? I need you to figure out how to use this computer and make people go do installations. Like right. That's all I care about at the moment. Because that was what was right in front of us. And I'm a true believer in if you get the right people and you produce the right culture, that the result that we're looking for, which is customer satisfaction, right? Getting the job done right the first time and having people stick around. Everything else will line up behind it. I've always been huge in that, people over profit. If you put the right people in place, like the metrics will follow. And then we lived that, right? Like all of our vendors and everybody would always call and be like, you guys are killing it. Like, tell us what you're doing. And I'm like, we're just going to work. Like, I don't know what, there's no secret sauce here. No. The secret sauce is I got great people doing a great job and we make sure that they're happy. Right. Today, obviously we've gotten to the point and beefed up enough with enough, employees and different tiers and layers that we're digging much more into that. It is needed. Mm-hmm. It is important. But man, if somebody offers you this giant opportunity and tells you, hey, I'll give this to you, but I need you to do it right now, don't say, can you give me a little bit to think about it? Or can you wait until I go through and build out metrics behind it? Or if I go through and I do this and I go do that, like if you can give them the result they're looking for in that opportunity, just do that. Take the risk and jump and grab a hold of it and run, and then go back and do the stuff that you need to do to get finite in your business. Because you won't have the business to get finite in if you don't take advantage of the opportunity. So coming in, it was a bit of a culture shock, I would say, as far as like, hey, who does this? And I'm like, I do. Who does this? I do. Who does this? I do. Who does this? You're about to. Because we didn't have the luxury of time on our hands in that moment to go through and formally put together positions and people and processes, SOPs. I didn't even know what an SOP was then. I didn't know what metrics really entailed. A P&L. Get out of here. Like if I look at the checks written versus the check coming in, are we profitable? Yes. Cool. Let's keep going because we've got more areas to expand into. So we ran ragged and we ran fast and we ran hard, and it was successful. It worked. Mm-hmm. It worked, but it only worked because the people that I surrounded myself with that trust me seen that, like, hey, he might not have all of these pieces that go with this, but he's got the main ingredient, mm-hmm. right? And to your point, like the drive and the care. It wasn't and it never will be. Hey, how can I squeeze as much as I can out of this thing, mm-hmm. right? It's more like, hey, how can we make this great? How can we make you great? How can we make me great? How can we make everyone that's involved in this great and give them a lifestyle that, like, they didn't think was possible? And I think we've done a fantastic job of that. So I guess talk about what was your mindset, right? Because I love bringing people on here, and I love like where they've been at different places, and then they come to our company and kind of go underneath of my leadership to to say like, man, I'm not used to this, or maybe it doesn't look like this, but then being like, it's kind of cool or it works. So what was the mindset coming in, let's say first 60 days of like, what is going on here? But then seeing like, man, this is actually, different or cool or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll speak to my first week. The first week of working with you guys, I gotta be honest. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" Right? Like this is not. I'm a structured guy. It was definitely very Wild Wild West in the early days as far as when I started. And one of the things that I did at my old job was like that was kind of my primary job was create the structure environment within, especially in a manufacturing facility. You got to have a structure because. Especially when you're sending product over to like a company like GE, which is almost the equivalent to like a Lowe's, you want to make sure that you're sending the product correctly the first time.
Right.
And, not having rejections was always the big thing. So, whenever we had issues at GE and, if there was a bad barcodes that we had sent over, what was the root cause of that,
right.
of that bad barcode, right? So developing, structures and processes to not necessarily your goal is to eliminate, but if you can't eliminate, how can I reduce the amount of rejections that we're getting? So, I created a lot of processes at Thomas Products that help reduce a lot of that. And we were very successful. So going from a very structured environment, especially an environment that I kind of helped create, to an environment that it was definitely, like you said, it was all in your lap and a lot of, but you guys you were at you had just started to kind of, to go on this wild journey that we went on for the past 6 years, and it was kind of the beginning of it. And you guys were already in it, and you guys were kind of learning as you go. And my first week was very it was looking for a good word here. I mean, it was a lot, right? Because I didn't know if I would be able to excel in that kind of environment, because it was so unstructured. I am such a structured person, but I think what ended up happening was it helped me as a person to understand that I don't always have to work in the constraints of structure.
Yeah.
I can adapt outside of structure, and I think it's made me better as a person because as good as I felt like I was, especially with people and personalities and just having, just working in a place that I knew exactly what I was getting into day to day and being able to pivot to not knowing anything at all as far as how I was going to handle working with you guys. It helped me to be honest, it gave me more drive. It gave me a sense of purpose of, I think I can help with this situation we have. And I can bring my experience and my expertise to kind of help bring some structure, outlook and those kind of things don't always hit home. But at the time we needed something like that because
100%.
you guys were too big for a Gmail. You guys were too big for the small-minded business that you guys are at, and to be able to kind of hopefully implement some of the things that kind of help us be a little more stable and structured towards the back end of it. I think really helped out. So, but for me it was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed being in a sink or swim type situation and knowing that, it's kind of on me to figure this thing out. And, I was excited to work with you. Right. And I think that was the environment that you made was, it wasn't about you. And I think the success that you had, especially early on, it wasn't a dictatorship. It was hey, we're in this together. We're in this as a team. And I want all the feedback from everybody. I want everybody's perspective on what can we do to make this.
That's because I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. Well,
I was hoping you did.
You did a pretty good job of selling it, right? So, so like I said, I think the reason why everybody rallied around you was just the fact that you made everybody feel like they had an opportunity to make this great together. Yeah. It wasn't just you driving everything. It was a collective amount of everybody putting in their own personality in this business, and I think it's what made it successful.
Yeah, I knew that I could not do it alone. I knew that I didn't have all the tools in my toolbox to do everything, right? And no one should ever feel that way. And even today, as owning what the company is today, I didn't do it alone. It was a ton of people. people that shaped my life from childhood and that work with us today, people that's worked with us that's no longer here. Like everyone still has their piece. So I was and I'm very and still very much. Hey, let's bring this into everyone's opinion and make sure that, yeah, I understand the structure of this, I understand how this works, but what's the impact going to be on the person using it? And so we need to know that. And a lot of the times that person, we did this not long ago where I told you and Ethan, like, hey, go sit on the phones and answer phones. Why? I'm like, well, because you're going to see what the stuff that we built has to be used. And I know you guys, you made a bunch of changes afterwards because you're just like, this sucks. So like bringing those people in and letting them to be the decision makers and we be the implementers, right? Like that's crucial. And I've always had that like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I can find someone that does. And that's what I'm really good at. And I want to bring in just a circle of human beings that are better than me in all the aspects that I'm not good at, right? I'm good at getting in front of people. I'm good at walking into a room and striking a conversation and talking pretty much about anything. But hey, if I don't know how to manage an employees from a certain aspect, like I should get someone, right? I should get someone like Garvin who's got experience doing this because he's better at it than me. Why would I take my time and put all of these people through the hell of me learning it when I could just bring someone in that's smarter than me at it? So you had a lot of knowledge that I knew just from knowing you forever that you can bring to the table. And then you just keep doing that, right? Like you just keep bringing in people that can add value to what you're trying to accomplish. And when you bring the right people in and you work together, but you're working on something together as if it's not just for me, it's for all of us, right? If we expand and we grow and everything looks good, can I make my life better for that? But also, is there enough meat on the bone to make other people's lives better as well? All the way down through to, someone picking up the appliance or someone scheduling it or someone making a phone call or we use a call center that's in Jamaica. And when we do Christmas bonuses, like we send Christmas bonuses to them as well. Like if I could bring them to different things that we do, I 100% would. Like they're an extension of us, but like they are an extension of us. That means they are a part of us. Yep. My arm is an extension of my body. I'd be real sad if it wasn't here. So treat it as though. Yep. So I think one of the cool things that I've seen you develop over time is chaos does sometimes produce results. Mm-hmm. You've came to me and you're like, hey, we need this, this, and this. And I'm like, we'll figure it out as it comes. Like, it's easier to read a book that you've got in your lap than to try to think about what words are on the page. Like, that's just the way my mind works. So, you would try to present the case and sometimes you would win, but sometimes I'm like, we're just going to wait to get the book. Like, we'll see what happens. And you've gotten way better at being able to take more leaps of faith on the unknown. Because you were very much like, hey, I need to know that when I turn the switch on that the light's going to work because I checked the wiring, I checked the bulb, I checked the breaker, I did all of this stuff where I was just like, I'm going to go over there and just flip the switch like 27 times and make sure that it's not working. And then we'll dig in and figure out if the wires are messed up. So you blend that together and then you bring in all the other personalities, right? And it's a really cool culture. We've got a great culture. The first year, within your first year of coming on board, we were growing, right? So like we had a bunch of people in the office, and a lot of the people that were doing the scheduling and the phone calls, they were female based for the most part. And I remember, with installers and especially with installers, it's more of an employee more than it is anything. But like the installer base was much easier, right? They're subcontractors. It's like, hey, this is what I need. Can you do it or not? Or I'll get someone else to do it, right? Employees are different. So I started getting all these employees and like this group was clicking up with this group and like they were saying like, well, this person's not doing their job and like she's not even here or he's not even here. Like, and I'm like, oh man, like this is like kind of like high school again. Yeah. So I remember going home and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Like I know what I want to say, but like it's not going to work either. So I started getting online and just doing research and figuring out, everybody's like, company retreats, like go do this. And like certain things aren't me, right? Like let's go trust fall in the backyard. Like I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I kept digging and trying to figure out what would work. And we came up with at the time, it was just a remote work environment to get everybody. Cause I'm like, man, they only know each other at work. Like I do a great job at learning each person as an individual. And I know that like, if this person knew this person the way that I knew them, they would like them. Right. Because they're more similar than they think.
But not everybody has that kind of personality, though, right? So
Right.
it's more trying to find that blend of getting people out of their comfort zone to be able to,
Right.
to experience that.
So we launched this. I'm like, I'm going to take a chunk of money that I don't have. And I found this house in Jupiter, Florida. And I said, hey, here's the deal, everybody. We're going to go to Florida. All you have to do is get there. If you can get there, I think there was like 7 of us or something at that time, maybe 10. If you can get there, everything else is taken care of. I got this house. It's got a pool. The beach isn't far away. And we're going to go on like a Wednesday and we're going to come home on a Sunday. Yep. And we're going to work Monday or Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. We're going to work Thursday, Friday. After we punch out on Friday, we're going to hang out. Yep. And all the way through till Sunday when everybody either drives home. I said, you could drive, fly, hitchhike. I don't care how you get there. You just have to get there. That's your responsibility. Food was taken care of, all the groceries. If we went out to dinner, any drinks, like whatever, like we just took care of that. And it was like, let's see if this works. So I remember we went there and man, it was amazing. And the people that were clicking up and going against each other ended up still to this day are like super close friends. Yep. They hang out after work. They talk all week. They hang out on the weekends. And it worked. We came back and man, it was insane. The teamwork and the stuff that was going on. So I was like, wow, that was cool. So we kept scaling and growing and bringing more people in. And like, I would see the little chatters and stuff going on. I'm like, that'll be fixed soon. As soon as we go to Florida, like everything will be fixed. And they deemed it CrumeCation. Mm-hmm. So every year since 2020, we do CrumeCation. Obviously, it's grown. We're in, I think the last house we stayed in that we rented was like the guy paid $10 million plus for it. It's got a huge backyard. We do,
a lazy river pool all the way around. Yeah.
And then on Fridays, we bring in private chefs, bartenders, like the full shebang. And what it does is it allows you to take, at work, you build the work relationship, right? But who is that person as a normal day to day? And I think that matters. So there's a double side to that. You got to make sure that when you're bringing these people in, they will fit the culture.
That's right.
Because if you go against the culture, it's not going to work. But if you fit the culture, and that's my job and Garvin's job, primarily to ensure that the people that are coming in do fit that from an employee basis. I don't care if there's friction. Once we get you to CrumeCation, you're going to be friends because you're so much alike you can't see it. But that allows you to see it. You live together. I always say you work together every day. What's it like to live together?
That's right.
And it made a huge difference. So we do the CrumeCations and then we do the Crume Christmas party, and that's for the installers. That's for the subs where everybody comes in. And it's powerful. It's powerful to see the full movement of things and allow people to build relationships. Someone in Miami, Florida that meets someone that lives in Indianapolis. And they're able to connect and talk. And that for me is like, it will always be the most fun part of what I get to do. And I've always said, if those have to go away, I'm going to start selling. Like we will always do that. I will live in a tent before we stop going and doing these trips. So those are fun.
Well, it's a big part of who we are too at this point, right? So
1,000,000%. We're known for it.
I remember, the first one that you're talking about, I had a pretty good relationship with everybody, but with the field managers, at that particular time, we were going 100 miles an hour. Everybody was constantly traveling and everything else. So, that was the first time that we were able to kind of be all together over an extended period of time and not just have this hit or miss relationship to where we would come in, and have these meetings, but these meetings are more structured for, hey, this is the direction we're going in. It was kind of a structured meeting, get everybody on the same page. And it was the first time that we had a chance to really be together on a different level, like you're saying, from a personal standpoint. Where we can say, hey, let's separate work now. Let's just get to know each other and be able to understand who this person is and everything else. And for me, it was a huge home run because I feel like I became closer to a lot of the field managers, and especially the office staff, because I'm in, every day I'm working with the office staff every day, but the field managers, it was kind of a disconnect there because, once again, we were constantly traveling all the time. So it gave us an opportunity to all kind of come together. And over a period of 3 or 4 days, we were together 24 hours a day. And there was a lot of relationships, especially out in the pool, and especially once work is over and we can kind of just let her hair down a little bit and just enjoy each other for who we are from a person standpoint. I think that's where the win is being able to develop that relationship in a setting that you don't just go home after work. Like, no, not that we're forced, but we're in an environment that we have to kind of figure this thing out to have that relationship part of it. And
you can't go home and complain about the person at work. You have to just stay there with them.
That's right. Yeah.
So now what are you going to do? Are you going to talk to them about what you're mad about? Or are you going to work through it? And I'm glad you said that, because I vividly remember one particular one. You told me, I don't know if this is your guy. And I'm like, you don't know him like I do. And you're like, I don't know if this is your guy. Like, it was a constant thing where I'm like, I love you, but you'll be gone before he does. Like, I love you, but like he's my guy. Like, he's my guy that will kill everything. And I remember after that, man, you came back and you were just like, I see it. Like, I see what you're talking about. Not everything can be measured on a graph.
Yep.
Heart and your relationship, there's no scale on that to show you how strong or dedicated or how much someone will like love you and appreciate you, or even just be there for you as a person. It's very, very important to have that. It's very important to know that. If you've got a team of people, you need to make sure that everyone's not going to be great at everything.
Yep,
and I'm a big believer in that. And we've had that conversation where I'm like, hey, your 100% might look like 70% for them, but it could be 110% in their eyes. Yep. Do you know them? Because that allows an opportunity to coach them and go, man, I know you're giving it your all, but here's where I see that you could be better, right? So what they're given 110%, they can do it 70%. Then it allows them to scale to the true 100% that they can be. You can't do that if you don't know someone's heart, if you don't know who they are as a human being. Because how can you connect those dots, right? You're just going to drive. You're going to drive into like, hey, I told you I wanted to see this on this day. I told you I wanted to see this on this day. Okay, what else is there behind that? And that is where the relationships become key. And I think that was an eye opener. It was an eye opener for you. It was an eye opener for me. I'm good at that. Like, I know I'm good at that. But like, it was an eye opener for everyone that was involved in the CrumeCations, and it still is. Yeah. We'll get people in, especially now that we've got people that work from home. Like, you don't know them. I remember we got a girl in Tennessee, and like the first time that she came to the Crume Christmas party, I was just like, oh my God, she's so cool. Like, I know she does a good job, but like, she's really cool. Like, right. The at-home stuff it terrifies me because it's hard to build that same relationship as if you're in the office. But when you do those off-site events, it allows you to connect with the human being. So.
And you need that. You really need that to have a culture in your company that everybody's bought into for exactly what you're saying. Because if there's, when you're working from home or you're not in the office as much, like there's a disconnect there. And, you might not be as motivated as you would be when you're in those environments when you are working together, and or the CrumeCations and the Christmas parties. I mean, how many times have we heard from installers just from the Christmas party standpoint that this is the greatest thing ever because I get to see who you guys are, because they don't see who we are, and out in the field. All they see is either an email or, a message on GroupMe or a message on here and there, and, or the field manager having that personal relationship. But from a higher level up from where we're standing, we're in a particular position that we don't really get a chance or an opportunity to develop those relationships out in the field. And, the Crume Christmas really opens that environment up to allow us to be able to go meet and greet and put a face to the name.
Yes.
We see names every day. We don't really get to see a face. We don't get to really see a personality, and there might be a name that I might hear that, their name might be floating around in the office just because, maybe a couple bad things might have happened that, might have been outside their control, whatever else, but they might have something negative attached to their name. But then you get a chance to meet him in real life, and it goes back to what you're saying, like
See their heart.
this person is not who my perception was based upon things that I'm hearing, but getting to see and know the real person and having that interaction with that person to kind of see their heart, it changes your perspective on who those people are. And that's what CrumeCation, that's what Crume Christmas or whatever the Christmas party does, is it connects those dots, and that's where the true relationship really comes about.
Yeah, it's the text message, right? Like the tone of a text message. Man, it's no one knows the true tone of a text message. Like they put it in all caps. They were yelling at me. Like
Right.
maybe they don't know, right? Like my dad did his own shorthand text when he learned how to text, where you could do like, IDC, I don't care. Like he made entire paragraphs out of just short things because he thought that that's what you do. Like you can't go off of a text message or an email. Like to determine the true tone of someone and determine their heart and who they really are, you have to know them. We weren't meant, when we were developed and we were born and when we were created, it wasn't an internet world. It was a relationships. Like you have to be in it together. It has to be community. And that still stands true today. You'll get so much pushback and so much, issues that stem from people that only do emails or people that only do text, but they never really truly connect with the person behind the keyboard. So if you really want to know if you got the right person in place, learn who they are. Who's the person that's behind the keyboard? And then make your decision. If you haven't given them that, you really can't pass a fair judgment on who they are. So
Otherwise, it's all surface personalities at that point. You're
Yeah.
just seeing them from a surface standpoint, and your perception is going to change, like you said, once you get to really know who they are.
you'll read it how you want to read it.
Yeah.
They didn't use a comma. It's a run-on sentence. Like you'll read it just like it is. Like, and then you'll form an opinion. And like, how are we? Like, man, that's a terrible thing to do, is to form an opinion about someone based upon a text message or an email. Like, God knows what they're going through. They could have been having the worst day of their life. They could have lost their mother. They could have lost their brother. They could have lost their child. And if, you can't ask the email that came through if they're okay. So you got to do that face to face, and you got to, or some sort of human interaction
That's right.
that doesn't involve the interwebs. I guess FaceTime works, but it's still not a true intimate connection. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up quick. But I want to get your opinion on today. If you could tell, you've got two sons, if you could tell them 3 to 5 things that since your time, it's been 5 years now. What's something that within the last 5 years that you've instilled in yourself, or that you've changed about yourself, or that you see that needs, even if it's something that you see that needs to be changed about yourself, what would you tell them? Hey, son, if there's a few things I could tell you to really ingrain into who you are before you go out into this world, what would that be?
That's a great question. 3 things. I would say one, especially being in this environment where you are dealing with customers and people and personalities on a daily basis, it would be exactly what we're talking about, right? Like develop the relationship. Relationships should be a huge part of who you are, not just having a conversation with somebody just to have it because you feel like you're forced to, but getting outside of your comfort zone, which is where I am. I'm not a personality kind of guy. I'm a we say yin and yang all the time. I'm the yang to your yin or whatever. I'm the guy that I'm the behind the scenes kind of person. I don't like being out in front. I can be that person, but it's not part of who I am. And I had to develop, that part of my life to be able to open myself up to drive conversations with people. So I would say, relationships would be probably the first one. Having relationships in your life that you
Genuine relationships.
Genuine, yep.
Yeah.
Of just understanding who people are for who they are, and understanding that everybody has their mistakes. Everybody has, things in their life that, that might not come out the way that they probably want to present themselves or whatever it looks like. But if you understand the person, those conversations become easier, and your perception of people would change, because now you're not seeing them from the surface level. You're seeing them from a different aspect. For me, it's always going to be work ethic and attention to detail. I'm a huge attention to detail kind of a person. Attention to detail prevents mistakes. It prevents, or I wouldn't say it prevents mistakes, but it definitely minimizes mistakes, right? So, tuning into not just doing something for what it is. I can go out and put a dishwasher in, and can I throw that dishwasher in and it work by the time I leave? Sure, but the overall experience of what that looks like as far as entering the home, understanding the first 10 minutes, understanding the last 10 minutes, and how significant the first and last is, as those are just as important as the middle, which is actually putting in the actual dishwasher. Having that attention to detail to know that the customer relationship is just as important as putting in that dishwasher, or putting in that dishwasher and making sure that I'm checking every connection, that I'm making sure that I don't have a leak, making sure that, when I leave this customer's home, I'm 1,000% confident that when I walk out of this customer's house, we're not going to have any issues because I've checked A to Z, the things I should be checking, and the attention to detail that I put in to make sure that we're not going to have an issue. I don't really have a third thing off the top of my head right now, but I think those two things there are the two main things that I would definitely push through for sure.
About your faith.
Oh, faith, yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I feel like I've had a great foundation with God in my life, my entire life. As probably everybody has experienced, there's always been those up and down valleys that you go through. Working here and going through some of the experiences that we've gone through, knowing who I was when I first came here versus where I'm at today. I've got a lot more faith-based things I do in my life today, right? So the decisions I make on a daily basis today, with the foundation of my faith in God, my foundation, my faith in my family, or having the structure in my family, and the decisions and the way that I present myself today is definitely different than it was 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago, because my faith really defines my character and who I am and how I present myself. And I wouldn't necessarily say that was probably that guy 5, 10 years ago, but today for sure, that's definitely a big foundation of who I am.
Yeah. So you would want your kids to develop genuine relationships, right? Have a foundation in faith, right? Because that's the relationships, all of that stuff ties into it, even the attention to detail. Like, having solid grounding makes you want to care. Right. It makes you want to know people at a different level. I genuinely feel that is the primary goal of who we are as humans, is to do life together, to understand one another. And if you can pour into someone, like, man, you're robbing them and you're robbing yourself, right? Because when I'm able to pour into someone, like, man, it gets me remotivated. It makes me excited. And it makes me feel closer to my faith, because I'm like, man, how fortunate am I? How fortunate am I that I'm sitting here talking to you today, right? Like, there's a lot of things that had to have happened for this to line up the way that it did, and I'm not blind to that. And those relationships, as you lean into that, they do become natural, because you start caring at a different level and you start looking at things through a different lens.
And you get more comfortable having those conversations too.
Because at the end of the day, we're all flawed human beings. Yep. It's so what's so scary about it? What's so scary about having a conversation with people and caring? Like, why is that so scary for some people? I don't want to get close to them. Like, why? Like, who knows? The person that I went through an event not long ago where I got talked to a lady that was homeless. She was sitting there drinking a 22-ounce like Ice House or something beer, and it was freezing cold. And she poured something into me that like, you look at that and you're like, well, what does she have to offer? And I had a conversation with her, and she was talking about her husband and how they had split up. And I said, if there's one thing you could tell me, what would it be? And she said, never give up on your spouse. Never stop working on it. Never stop trying. Never stop pushing. And like the hurt and the pain and the realness that came from her in that moment. Like, man, how fortunate am I that I got to talk to her? Right. She might have thought I was some just crazy dude, but like that was supposed to happen. And it was very impactful for me, but only because I wanted to see it. Only because I was like, I'm not above talking to her. I'm not better than her. We're both humans. We both breathe the same oxygen. And learning that from her was impactful to the point, like the last podcast that I did where I'm talking about like chase your wife, like all of this different stuff where I'm like, I'm not stopping. Like I'm going at it. Cause you'll get complacent. And I do that in the relationships at work. And I do that. We all are flawed humans, but if you can realize it, you can work on it. So, making sure that we take time to connect, making sure that we talk about going and doing manager events and like actually putting that into place. But like, at least we're talking about them, even though we haven't done it in the moment, like it's going to happen. It's better than just closing that off and being like, I don't need this. So those relationships are key. So, and then the attention to details, like that's something that.
So in those times, right? So you're coming from a mindset of somebody that one is a personality kind of a person, right? So, you are more naturally gifted to open yourself up to have those conversations. So what would you say to somebody that may not have that kind of personality, right? So how do you open up somebody's mind to be able to be more receptive to take that challenge and to get out of their comfort zone to say, hey, I'm not really this kind of a person, but how do you challenge yourself to be consistent with that over the period of time that you need to be consistent to be able to open up those opportunities?
Man, if you go to a restaurant by yourself, if you're traveling by yourself, if you're sitting at a bar or you're sitting in a lobby or you're sitting anywhere, what's the worst that could happen if you talk to someone? They might not like you. You never have to see these people again, right? Like if you don't want to, I'll never talk to the lady that I spoke to probably ever again.
Yeah.
Like, what did I have to lose? I only had to, just things to gain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, build relationships. Every time you bump into somebody, they've got something. You've got something. Like, there's something there. I guarantee that you won't talk to somebody and just be like, well, they had absolutely nothing. They've lived a completely bland life and never experienced anything. And they will never say that about you because we've all been through something. That's part of life. But like, what do you have to lose? Yeah. Like, I get in my car and I leave, or I get on a plane and I never go back to that state. Like, if it freaks me out too bad, I never have to go back to Texas. Like, it's not scary if you put it into reality. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. The only thing you have to lose is what you're not going to be able to gain.
Yeah, and you say that kind of the first thought that I thought of is, okay, so if I apply that to myself, and knowing that if I put myself in, if I'm in a bar and or if I'm at a bar and I'm open up myself with a conversation with somebody I never met before, and you're right. If I never see them again, what do I have to lose? What you have to gain is the fact that you're putting yourself in a position to make yourself stronger as a person. Because even if I fail in that conversation, even if I didn't say the right words or I didn't present myself the right way, it's still a learning opportunity for yourself. Because as I might not never see them again, I can evaluate what that conversation looked like and then just keep repeating the pattern until I get better at it and get better at it.
Would you rather go somewhere at a bar or a restaurant or anything and talk to someone that you don't know and fail? Or would you rather be sitting in a board meeting where your whole life could fall apart?
That's right.
And you're not used to talking to people that you're not in a relationship with already. Yeah. And you fail there. Go to Walmart and fail, because then you can just get in your car and go to Target instead. Yeah. Like, when you go talk to your boss, that's your job.
That's right.
That's huge, right? So like practice it on the pieces that you only have something to gain. There's nothing to lose except your ego. Maybe a little bit of like, oh man, I don't want to feel this way. Well, you're going to feel that at some point. I'd rather feel it with people that can only give me something than take something away. So,
and you'll have more confidence. And if you're putting yourself in those positions, you'll have more confidence going forward. So when the time comes that you actually have to have a hard conversation or just meeting somebody out of your comfort zone, you'll be versed because you've already experienced it in doing that. So that's good.
You'll gain more from the people that you don't think you would than you would the people that you want to speak to but you're afraid of. You will gain more from the people that you don't think has anything to give you than the people that you're afraid to speak to.
Yeah.
Because the people that you're going to gain something from already talk to that person that you don't want to talk to. They've already gathered that information. Yeah. That's why you're afraid to talk to them now, because they already have that nugget. So
that's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, I love having you on this. We're going to do it again. Dive deeper into more of mindsets, what it looks like when you do take the leaps, right? Obviously, you're the vice president of Crume Installations at this point, and it's a very significant role. The last 12 months, I've started pushing you more into the travel here. You go, or, you and Hunter go and sit down with the people that, like, I used to go sit down with all the time, and really kind of getting you guys into that, and you're killing it. I've got nothing but great feedback from it, but it's all the random conversations to people that you're not used to, and building the relationships. It becomes natural. Just because it's not normal to you doesn't mean that it can't appear as natural.
That's right.
And you can become that person that does speak to people, or that does speak in front of people. And, we've done that, and I've watched you, and it's an uncomfortable situation. And I'm still that guy in a lot of situations, but, like, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm not going to shy away from it, because I know what's on the other side of it. So I'm excited to keep digging into that, and I'm excited to keep growing, and then, coming back and going like, hey, the last time we talked, we were here. Now we're here. Let's talk about how we got there. Yeah. So a lot of good things coming in the next few months. Thank you for being on here.
Absolutely.
And we'll bring you back in, and we're going to go back to work and problem solve and build more relationships.
I like it.
All right. Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Love you too, pal.
Thank you for tuning in to the CrumeCast podcast. We're excited to continue to share our story with you. Our new guests that are coming on have a lot more to tell. You've got a lot more to learn. So we really hope that you keep tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a blessed day.